everyone. My name is Vlad with CyberPlayback. We have another great session today with some of the folks here at CyberPlayback, our dedicated advisors. We're going to be talking about AI evolution, a very interesting, intriguing topic. Starting off with Steve, if you don't mind just giving a brief introduction.
Yep. Thanks, Vlad. I wish I had such a cool hat as yours. Maybe tip forward a little so
coming,
we can see
coming.
it. Okay. Yeah, Steve Povolny. I've been doing cybersecurity and leading research teams for about 16 years or so. I've always been on the offensive side of security in more way than one probably. But yeah, I'm always involved with trying to break things. Running research teams that are always trying to find vulnerabilities, exploit them, break into new systems. So I love doing that. Also passionate about AI on the side. It's kind of hard not to be nowadays if you're involved in tech and security. So looking forward to the session. Thanks.
Anouar, back to you.
Yes, Anouar Mansour. So same experience as Steve over here. I do a lot of offensive security here, but I also did some threat intel. I did a lot of vulnerability management and helping companies understand their cyber posture. And then, yeah, happy to be here. And also very excited about AI. I think it's there's a lot that we can talk about here. So yeah, let's get started.
Well, that's awesome. So we have a set of questions that our subscribers, our followers at CyberPlayback put together. Not put together, I guess they kind of send it to us and then we kind of put it together to make it pretty. I'll start off with the first one, which I think is a pretty generic standard one. What does AI kind of represent to you? What does it make you kind of, what do you feel is like your day-to-day understanding, like what it's kind of representing in your state and stuff like that? Steve?
Yeah, man, that is a broad question. But to me, I guess AI feels like one of those things that you're going to look back and feel like you were part of, right? Every generation has their thing, that big thing, whether good or bad, that they were involved in. And to me, you know, much like the PC and like the mobile phone, like I honestly put the redevelopment or reintegration of AI and the re-explosion of that in the same category. I really think it has not just the potential to, but maybe has already changed just the way that we live and compute and do things. And I think the potential for what it will do and how it'll disrupt the world we live in could be just as large as those other two inventions. So it's kind of fun being part of something that you can see the writing on the wall is here to stay, and definitely going to continue in that explosive evolution over the next few years.
That's amazing. I couldn't agree more with you. Definitely a very interesting time. It's almost like the big boom, right, for us, the computer boom. But now we're talking about AI specifically. Anouar, what do you think about what does it represent to you from AI perspective?
Yeah, for me, it kind of takes me back to you know, the early internet days when we were talking a lot about the internet, but nobody was buying it. I feel kind of in the same space right now, which is very interesting. And so it's definitely going to change some things in how we do work and how it affects our industry. But it's still early, and then we're just here to see how it's gonna unroll on us.
I think we're aging ourselves here. Somebody's going to mention like a Commodore 64 soon, and then we're just going to have to all sign off. So,
yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same position as you guys. Like, I think for me, like when I think about AI, what it represents to me is it's just the flexibility, the opportunity to you know, have more time to yourself, having a a modeling platform of this that enables you to get additional context and but also like minimizing some of the effort that you would typically have to do manually. I think it's amazing, right? The other question that we had is like, how do you see AI evolve over time?
Yeah, I can take that one as well, and then we can move to Anouar first. I think for me, one of the things that I'm seeing is, you know, it represents a similar growth and necessitates a skill set similar to the kind of software development and coding skills that maybe our former generations, the generation before us, might have missed out on a little bit. And one of the things that I think is going to evolve with the obvious things of AI, which is just new innovation and shortcuts for everything and ease and efficiency and obviously a booming, driving the booming economy. But on the skill set side of things is where I'd focus. And I encourage people that, I'm hiring or that either work with me or for me in the last few years to invest in that skill set and learning data science concepts and fundamentals, being able to understand AI and how to apply it, because I don't think there is a single industry that's untouched by this already. And it will be one of those skill sets that's just going to be necessary for almost everybody to have in some way, shape, or form. In the technical and security realms we live in, obviously that's quite a bit more amplified. But I'm looking forward to seeing that evolution in skill sets over time, and how academics and business both start to incorporate this into their agendas.
True, completely agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I echo the same sentiment here, but for me, the big thing is I think will impact us in more ways that we cannot predict than we can. So I think there's just a lot of uncertainty, and just it's a wild card. So I think that's why I think it's worth it to pay attention, because you get to see it coming a little bit earlier.
Maybe we should ask AI to predict what it's going to be able to do in the future. It's probably been a movie about that at some point.
Yeah, I can see sometimes when there's some folks that are doing like imagery and stuff like that. Like, what do you see AI doing, or like, what do you see this be, and stuff like that, and kind of reconstructs that image. And very interesting how it evolves and becomes more accurate. I think the accuracy itself is actually what I'm seeing it kind of evolve over time. We're seeing more complex AI capabilities being released, or features, and so. And I think the accuracy of the type of information that we're going to get is going to definitely be very interesting. Is it going to become more human-like, or is it not going to be more human-like? I know we all hear about AGI and so on. So I think this is one of the other concepts that people are kind of intrigued. It's going to be, how is it going to impact us as humans and stuff? So I think that kind of involvement and between us and AI, and how we work together to accomplish certain tasks, or against each other. I don't know. We'll see. It's definitely an exciting time. It's and maybe scary for some in some cases, right?
Definitely.
Great answers. I think the first question we have is how do you what are some of the concerns you have with AI, which kind of works well with what I was just saying. So what do you think?
Anouar, go ahead.
Right. My concerns with AI, a bit hard to put my finger on, but I definitely think in terms of change, if it will change a lot of things, then the change will have some impact. And specific to cybersecurity, I definitely feel like it will become a tool that will be used by both defenders and attackers. And I think it's a matter of, can the defenders use this to capitalize on its ability and get the advantage? Because we've been living in a world where the attackers have always had the advantage. So hopefully it changes towards the defenders, but we don't know. So that remains to be seen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, 100%. I think the ways that it's being used to weaponize, cybersecurity, or even incentivize and make more efficient the attack structure for threat actors is certainly a problem. There's a lot of talk about the common threats associated with AI, model poisoning and prompt injection, and guardrail defense and leaks and all that stuff. And look, they're all 100% accurate, and they're all real and very present. I maybe have a little bit of a polarizing stance on this, which is I'm not quite as worried about that. It's certainly something we need to pay attention to, but there is stupidity across cybersecurity right now in general that has been there for 30 years, and what I mean by that is we have fundamental flaws that have not changed in 3 decades plus, where we still use weak passwords, weak authentication systems, poor configuration. Various industries suffer from the most trivial flaws of systems that haven't been patched in a decade or two. So to me, the incentive for cyber criminals to heavily weaponize AI at this point is only kind of marginally a return on investment for them. Where I kind of think the biggest incentive is, and the biggest risk, is in the area of misinformation and disinformation. And this is obviously a problem that we have worldwide right now, here in the U.S., certainly I'm sure in the northern U.S. as well, in the U.S. attic as well, I believe is what they call Canada. But definitely a problem, misinformation, and just how trusting people are when they see something coming from a digital source, and how willing they are to act on that. That to me represents the way that AI and generative AI can have the biggest negative impact on our society, culture, geopolitical scene, everything like that. That's my biggest concern.
That's a very good point, Steve and Anouar. And we're seeing this already, like with not just with propaganda, but you have the ability to recreate literally a full image of a person, and the accuracy on that is quite staggering. You're not going to see the difference unless you're really, really looking close and some of the speech maybe, or like the movement, the human like. But it's crazy to see how similar it is. And definitely, like I was saying before, like accuracy, like over time, I think it's just going to become more evident. Another question that we have here, it's what sort of guardrails do you see organizations implement or should? Starting with you, Steve.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Could, should. I think it depends on the implementation a little bit. So there's the private internal aspect where you have companies that are developing and building their own large language models, neural networks, using large infrastructure platforms for private or proprietary purposes. That's a lot of P's. I call that kind of the private instance side of things, and that's where exactly private. Oh man, now I'm going to be in my own head. So that internal use stuff has a different set of guardrails, in my opinion, than the public side of things, which has a little bit of a different aspect and intention. So on the internal side of things, you're worried about code leakage and DLP and exfiltration of data, whether intentional or not. You're worried about these things like model poisoning and prompt injection, guarding company and business secrets. All of those are guardrails that can and should be implemented on the private side of things. On the public side of things, you do have a similar set of problems, whether an employee inadvertently uploads code to a public cloud model, or whether when they're visiting some public infrastructure, they blindly trust it and get infected with an AI specific piece of malware or something like that. And then there's the specific guardrails around prompt injection. How do you want to develop a model where you protect it by telling it what it's allowed to produce and what it's allowed to respond to and what kind of inputs it can take? This is an entire industry in itself, and jobs in this area are going for 6-7 figures in some cases. So definitely a large and a topic we could spend a lot of time on, but I really think it comes down to what the application is in the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I'm seeing already like some of the security vendors putting together some additional guardrails around like role-based access control, who can use it, who cannot use it. We're also seeing something that I've seen Elastic actually put together called anonymization, which allows you to decide what sort of field you want the models to use as information from the data sources that it's taking the information from. But just in general, those two I would say are probably big ones. And then you see also different frameworks that are being implemented. Google has had for a while their AI framework that they've implemented, I think, many years ago. We're seeing Microsoft as well with their security commits for customers around how it should be positioned, what sort of information are being implemented around the AI and stuff like that. We're also seeing like IBM Curator, which is another one, or IBM in general, I guess, working with different partners around the framework as well around the AI. And so those different guardrails, or there's different steps that are being taken in order to make sure that it's being utilized appropriately. Definitely needed, and it will be interesting to see how it transfers over time and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it starts with having like a clear policy for internal and external development or usage, and then having visibility and enforcement on those policies. And that's still lacking in many businesses today. I mean, they're just having a struggle catching up to this, right?
Yeah, and they're learning, right? Like this is, I think, a tipping point for everyone. I think last year was like a big time where everybody was just, let's just do it, let's just implement it, let's just, we'll figure out later what the consequences, which is going to be our next question around something else. But just that ability, I think, is really important to understand, and the next steps to be taken. Moving forward with the next question is like, what are security vendors doing today around generative AI? And I'll talk a little bit about it because it seems to be like it's one of the works that I'm doing right now. And what we're seeing, I think a lot of the vendors, like I said, like last year was a big year where people just wanted to implement some sort of integration with ChatGPT, let's just say. We've seen Orca Security, they've done integration via API to ChatGPT. We've seen other ones like HunterSec platform. We've seen some other ones that are implementing it directly within their security investigate to provide additional context, like Securonics. But the general idea itself was generative AI in natural language processing seems to be the most kind of being implemented in general within the different vendors. And I think where it becomes very important is different use cases that are being implemented. And also, I think the most important thing would be is how are those vendors going to be using it moving forward. So it's one thing to have your basic ChatGPT integration to provide you with context and maybe some sort of remediation steps or things like this. But beyond that, what are the vendors going to be doing moving forward in order to really kind of optimize it and utilize it for the users on a day-to-day basis? There's a cost factor to it. There's a little bit of a learning path as well and how it works and how it's optimized. But ultimately it's really to trying to figure out how they can leverage it. So not only they're reducing their mean time to detect, mean time to respond, but at the same time they're learning and they're becoming better at what they do on a daily basis. Because we know that's another big issue we're having in security is we don't have necessarily people are coming in right out of college or university with all the skills of being able to operate a full SOC, right? So I think this is going to be important. We're seeing other folks that are kind of just moving along with their capability. Like Exabeam is a great example, not because some of us are there, but because Exabeam has been in that industry for many years. They have their UEBA, their analytics, they're driven, they have patents around that. Now they're just kind of on the next level, the next transition in integrating additional capabilities. We're seeing also like CrowdStrike, they're putting out something that's called Child AI. Nice feature from a UI perspective, has a lot of abilities to provide you with good concepts from a threat actor perspective, and over 230 adversaries from their threat intelligence, and there's different other things and actions that you can do. And then you're seeing other ones like like Elastic, Microsoft, of course, with their security copilot, Google Chronicle with their Do It AI, and now Gemini that has been integrated recently, I think just this past week or so within Google Chronicle. So different use cases. I think really where you see the success is what's going to happen now. You've integrated, you've done it. How are you going to use it to move forward? And that's going to be the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah. Does it actually, how much value is it actually bringing? Are people using it? And what kind of impact is it having on different companies? So yeah, I think that remains to be seen. But I think the Gemini and Copilot for security was released this month. So like we're literally in the beginning of this. So I think we're going to see a lot happen in the future.
Yeah, that's true. Next question we have is, what innovative development have you seen in AI that you thought was interesting?
Boy, this is a huge topic too. There's so many of them. Like off the cuff, yeah, I mean, there's too many to name, right? Like as I said earlier, every single industry has a dozen applications. The ones to me that I find, really compelling so far early on, and I'm sure I'm missing many, as simple as like the real estate, right? So generation of listings and review and matching up buyers and sellers, cool application. Healthcare, this is one that goes back several years. Identification of cancerous, precancerous imagery, using both generative AI and cognitive AI. Even in art, social media, I saw an article the other day that there was a piece of AI generated art that sold for like over $500,000, like fully AI generated. We're not talking NFT here. We're talking like actually sold as a piece of physical art. I mean, finance, like load application and processing, risk assessment, fraud detection. In education, you've got like students now who can fall asleep during class and have an automated note taker, right? Deliver them summarized notes. And I don't know if that's a good one or not. Probably depends if you ask the teacher or the student. I mean, ICS and SCADA, customer experience, farming and agriculture, like there's just example after example. And that's all of that is not even to touch on the industry that, we know best, which is security. So fascinating, just scratching the surface of what's capable, I think, but really cool. Some really great examples out there.
No, I completely agree.
And if you pay attention to the research papers that are coming out, which has been coming out at a crazy pace, which is just impossible to keep up with,
Yeah.
Just like all these little features just being worked out and
Yeah.
to be potentially integrated into future models. And now, like to this day, we see the models are getting bigger, but also their speed is getting faster. So there's the Grok, which is running LLMs like a crazy inference speed where you just get your reply right away. And then we see Google has a 1 million token context length, which is very crazy. You can put a lot of information in there. So if the speed increases, the context window increases, the reasoning capabilities of the models increases, there's going to be a interesting world ahead.
Yeah, I've actually seen the other day, I think that was in regards to Gemini, right? The 1.5 one that just came out. And then because of this specifically, they're able to, I wouldn't say prevent hallucination, but at least make it better. So maybe reduce some of that hallucination by being able to analyze more data. Because usually when you analyze more data, the more kind of hallucination becomes more dominant, I would say.
You let it ground itself into something real, right?
Yeah. The other thing I saw the other day was a self-learner models or something like that, where they essentially learn from their own mistakes and they just kind of become better over time. I was actually going to send it to you guys and I completely forgot, but I'm going to send it to you after. Yeah, I didn't read everything, but I read a good portion of it. Last question of the day is, tell us a bit more about how you are leveraging AI today. Final question.
All right,
Go ahead, Anouar.
let me start. So for me, I write a lot of reports on my pen test engagements and other red team engagements. And I find it, a lot of people use the LLMs to basically get started. They have a blank page and they get started with it. I kind of do the opposite, where I just dumped all my technical information that I don't know how to properly, write down for like a non-technical audience. And I find it works amazingly well for this purpose. So I can just brain dump information and just ask the LLM to flesh it out for me. So I think that's one use case for me, which works pretty well. And sometimes when I'm working on how to remediate a specific finding, the LLM actually knows more than me. So it has happened a few times, which is very useful and
learning. Why not?
Well, I hope it's
humbling, right?
happening. Yeah.
Your own personal teacher, man.
It's like having a little assistant and he knows a little bit more than you on some things, and it's nice to have. So if they keep getting better, then yeah, definitely gonna keep using them more and more.
Oh, that's amazing.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I use mine to become a tooth fairy. I put this on LinkedIn a few months ago. I'm joking, but like I use it, just literally for anything. I used it to write my kids, don't judge me for this. I'm tired at the end of the day, but write my kids automated messages from the tooth fairy when they lose one of the 63 teeth, they lose a month seemingly. And I have to write this novel at 10 p.m. when I'm tired. No, I'm not doing that. I've done it for, writing complex job descriptions and updating, matrices of, kind of like working tools and experiences for jobs. I've done it to do resume review and input. I use it all the time, like at work or when I'm developing slide decks to create custom imagery for those. In my personal life, I do a little bit of music on the side, so I've used it to try to like write some lyrics for songs and see how it does. That's kind of fun. And then, for coding, it's great for me who's not an outstanding like software dev or anything like that. I use it to do my Google code and shorten a lot of my coding or scripting stuff that I have to do on occasion. So, I mean, the list of things you can do with it really is just immense. And it's a matter of just kind of starting to get in and play with it in any way you can think of possible. Starts to build different skill sets that you didn't even realize you had or wanted to have.
That's
on the
amazing.
coding side, I gotta add my coding skills have atrophied quite a bit since GPT-4. Also, I'm way more capable than before, so I don't know if that's good or bad, but
I feel smarter now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying I think for me it has been just a blessing in finding specific information that I'm looking for, documentation, reducing some of like 10, 15 pages into like a more like of a summary so I can just absorb key points. I'm also using a tool called Perplexity AI. Has been really helpful in just doing my day-to-day kind of work, I would say. But yeah, just making my life a little bit easier from giving me more time back, I would say, and focus on the things that I need rather than going through like very, very general. I'm starting with very specific search, and it allows me to find information quicker and faster and better and more accurate, I would say, as well. That was our last questions. We did it. We went through all the questions that were asked by us to deliver on this AI evolution. As always, thank you guys for joining this session. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Anouar. Thank you, Steve. And to the viewers, if you want to hear a little bit more about CyberPlayback, you can follow us on LinkedIn, you can subscribe on YouTube, or you can just ping us because, we're just very friendly. We're always open to just, talk and have a good time. So thank you once again, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Vlad. Thanks, Anouar.
Bye.